Jazz Notes Podcast. I'm Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
And we are recording this live on the night of the NBA Draft, June 25th. We're also trying to do this live on Twitter at the KSL Sports app, so appreciate everyone who is tuning in that way and listening to us live. Otherwise, thanks to everyone who is listening to this probably the morning after the draft, that we will get this up, posted as soon as possible. We did get all your mailbag questions. I sent out a tweet about an hour ago asking for your mailbag questions, and there were lots of them, and we will make sure we get to them as well before the end of this podcast. But Chandler, we got to start with what happened for the Utah Jazz. They were the talk of the draft tonight.
Yes, absolutely.
The Jazz were the talk of the NBA draft because the big question, the big narrative all week has been, what's going to happen with Ace Bailey? Who's going to have the guts to actually take him? And I mean the guts, A, to draft a guy who's as mercurial as Ace Bailey is, and then who's going to be willing to take him in a spot where he may not prefer to go because he is better than the 6th, 7th, or 8th player in the draft, but that's where he wanted to get drafted. And I hate to say the Jazz called his bluff, but the Jazz just said, we're going to be bold. We believe in what we're doing. We believe in who we are and what we can put around you to develop you into a player. And they selected Ace Bailey.
Yeah, and not to toot our own horn, but the top 5 went exactly as our mock draft was the other day. And then it basically came to the point where at the 5th pick, the Jazz had the pick of the litter. Trey Johnson, Ace Bailey, Jeremiah Fears, if that was the direction they wanted to go. And then, like you said, they pulled the trigger on Ace Bailey, who, like, in most people's mind, was the best player available at that spot. Like, Trey Johnson was awesome, and there was a lot of smoke, or I guess fire, you could say, with both him and Jeremiah Fears regarding that Jazz's 5th pick, but it broke the Jazz's way, and I do think, basically, since we recapped him, reviewed him as a player, 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, I was like, he's my favorite guy for the Jazz, if he could be there.
Yeah, I didn't do an official board. I could go back and look at kind of my listings, and, I definitely had Cooper 1, Dylan Harper 2, and then I think when you get to that point, you're looking specifically at the Jazz, the players available. I think if you're going to take a swing and you wanted to get something out of a 65-loss season, that you went into the year tanking.
Yes.
Like the Jazz, we did this on the podcast before the season started, and we had a lot of questions like, are the Jazz going to be worse than they were last year? Or who are the Jazz going to trade at the trade deadline to get worse? It's like, they're going to be worse from game one.
Yeah.
Because they didn't go out and sign any veterans that were going to help them win. The Jazz went into last season with the design of drafting a player like Ace Bailey. I think that's important for Jazz fans to remember. They set up last season to be what it was in hopes of drafting Cooper Flagg, Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey.
And it happened.
Yeah. That was it. That's what you wanted. And was it the way you expected it to happen? No. If 12 months ago we had told you Ace Bailey was going to be playing for the Utah Jazz, you thought they'd got the 2nd or 3rd pick in the draft.
Oh, absolutely.
Not 5th, not worst case scenario on lottery night. But that is also the value of having the worst record in the NBA.
Yep.
You can only fall to 5. You fell to 5, and at least for now, we don't know what this is going to look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, but they are reaping the rewards of not falling further than 5, and they did that by having the worst record in the NBA, which happened as the result of a Bub Carrington layup in the last game of the regular season to separate the Jazz and the Wizards for the worst record overall.
Yes, and since this is a reactionary podcast, I was at home covering all of the NBA draft stuff, and I was scrolling through X, seeing all the replies, seeing what Jazz fans were thinking, and something that I really want to address, and something we had talked about last week on our podcast as well, which is Ace Bailey got up there, and it was interesting because when he got drafted, it was like that. His smile was ear to ear. He was super happy to hear his name called. But then he got up and there's the picture of him and he wasn't smiling, just shook Adam Silver's hand. And there was a lot of Jazz fans like, oh man, he does not want to be in Utah. And like I said, we talked about this last week. You specifically brought up Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson started his career in Los Angeles. He probably loved that.
Yeah.
But then eventually he made his way to Utah and now he wants to be here forever. He wants to have a house here, even if his playing days take him elsewhere. And the nice thing is the Jazz have him locked up for multiple years. And another point of yours, which is if it comes to the 3rd, 4th year and he is still steadfast on not liking it here and wanting to move on, then you have the best player as a trade asset still.
That's the value.
Yes.
The value is if he clicks one way or another and he doesn't like it here or he requests a trade or whatever, you still ideally have the best player versus, we went safe. Well, what if 2 years from now, the safe guy, whoever that is, Trey Johnson, Con Knippel, Jeremiah Fears, whatever, by the way, there's no such thing as a safe draft pick. Guys bust out all different spots. If 2 years from now, for whatever reason, you need a divorce, you need something different, you have a high value asset.
Yes.
So it's why you take best player available, especially when you're in a situation like the Jazz are. Look, I don't mind what Charlotte did. Like, Charlotte has some young dudes. They've got some immature dudes. If you just want an adult in the room, Knippel makes a ton of sense. So I love that. And I understand what the Spurs did, taking Dylan Harper. I understand, obviously, taking Cooper Flagg overall. But where the Jazz are, coming off of a 65-loss season, needing a dude. They need the guy. That is still very true. And getting him without having to reach for him or make a crazy trade to get him is a really, really solid evening for the Utah Jazz.
Absolutely. And speaking of the stuff that Knippel brings, the Jazz's 18th pick, who they traded up to get, brings a lot of those same things, right? He's an older rookie.
Yes.
Walter Clayton Jr., of course, I'm talking about. The Jazz traded up, I believe. They had the 21st pick. They traded the 42nd and then a second-round pick in 2031 and 2032, I believe.
Just a ways down the road.
Yes. To move up to 18 to snag Walter Clayton. And we have some questions about that regarding if you would have taken him or Kasperius Akushinas. We'll get into that into a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But you loved Walter Clayton coming in this whole draft process, right? You had the a couple weeks ago, wink, wink, the connection to him possibly being drafted by the Jazz. And then it ultimately came together. But something I like is he went on to the KSL Sports Zone after he got drafted and he said he's bringing winning, like a winning mentality to the Jazz. And as like a 22, 23-year-old rookie, like even though he is adding to the young core, it's not necessarily what the Jazz have done up to this point. I know you like that pick, but what do you think?
I said throughout the night, I just don't know if you can give Will Hardy another guy you have to put in diapers.
Yes.
How many guys can you ask Will Hardy to babysit every practice and just be like, are you being an adult or are you being a 19-year-old and a 20-year-old? Which, that's part of it. That's part of the draft process. That's totally fine. But at some point, make his life a little bit easier, which is where Knippel would have fit in, I thought, really well. It's just like a guy who's going to come to work every day and do the right thing. That's what you're getting in Walter Clayton. And absolutely, one of the things we did last week, we just kind of touched on a little bit, like if you pass on this guy in the single digits, you draft this guy in the 20s.
Yes.
Right? If you pass on Colin Murray Boyles in the top 10, draft Noah Penda in the second or later in the first round or second round now. He fell to the second round and get a similar type of player. Honestly, if you're passing on Knippel, elite shooter, adult, winner, does the right things, high motor, in the top 10, draft Walter Clayton in the 20s.
Yes.
And that's the move. And in fact, clearly the Jazz had him much higher on their board because they traded up to get him.
Yes.
That's a very aggressive move, considering, to the point, who was still out there on the board at that point, names I really liked. But, I told you I thought Kasperius Akushinas could have been a top 5 pick, a dark horse player for top 5. And he was on the board and the Jazz passed on him.
Yeah.
The Jazz traded above him to pass on him. By the way, the reason the Jazz traded up to get Walter Clayton was he was going to get drafted by the Miami Heat.
Yes, at 20.
They were going to pick him at 20. He had apparently had awesome workouts there. Obviously, similar area, playing at Florida and then in Miami. They're not neighbors, but it's a big state. But it's the same state.
Yes.
The Jazz knew that.
Yeah.
Absolutely knew. The Jazz knew that was going to be an opportunity, and they wanted to move up ahead of him.
And honestly, without that context, I would just assume that Walter Clayton would be like a Heat guy.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so do you want to touch on just some quick other NBA draft things that we can get into questions?
Let's talk about Ace Bailey and Walter Clayton
a little bit more.
Yeah. What Ace Bailey is and what he's not.
Yes.
And I do think there is the myth of, is he Kevin Durant? Which is that was kind of the high upside stuff. And then the measurements came out and he's 6'7.5". He's not 7 feet tall or 6'11.5". So that certainly, I think, changed that conversation. A lot of those guys are great playmakers. He is not a great playmaker right now. I've told you I don't really fault his assist to turnover ratio when I'm looking at the players around him on Rutgers. That doesn't really scare me that much. I think that will naturally come up. And I think he has more natural passing cred or credibility than I think people think he has had.
Yeah.
And actually, if you've listened to some of his pre-draft interviews, people are like, what can you do that people don't know? He's like, I can pass. Trust me, I can pass the ball. The effort level's got to improve just all over the floor. Decision-making's got to improve all over the floor. He's got to know when to pick his spots and when to choose his shots. He's got to give an effort on defense more consistently, but I think he's a much better defensive player than people are recognizing. He is not just a total slob. I remember one of the things we talked about when we did his breakdown, which if you just want to go back to when we actually did his full breakdown after this live, or if you're listening this morning and you want to go back and listen to more of our conversation about him, I think we were both just surprised at how many positives there were on film. I kind of expected to see a guy who was all flaws and all negativity and bad body language. It's he makes a mistake, he's patting himself on the chest, he's like, my bad. He's running over to teammates. When he's on the sidelines, he's up and cheering people on. It's not towel on the head, I'm not in the court, I don't care. I actually liked all of the intangible stuff that's not on the court a lot.
Yep.
And I didn't know if I would like that.
Before the draft today, I went back and I rewatched a lot of stuff for Ace Bailey, Trey Johnson, Jeremiah Fears. And don't get me wrong, Trey is awesome. And I up until it happened, I thought that was going to be the pick for the Jazz. But I think Ace even does the stuff Trey does just better. Like you said in our podcast the other day, not to keep harping on your points that you've made, but it's if you're taking Trey Johnson, why don't you just take the 6'7" guy who does a lot of the same stuff?
Yeah, and the 3-point shot went in more for Trey Johnson, but what you're taking is a difficult shot maker and a potential offensive engine, and I think Ace Bailey is better at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's he just gets his shot over everyone. He plays bigger. Like you said, it was a shock when he came out, listed at 6'7.5" at the combine. And I just think he's going to slot so well into the Jazz's roster. Because right now at guards, you have Keontae, Collier, and then Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson remains to be seen with them, adding Walter Clayton now. And then for the bigger forwards, you have Lauri Markkanen, you have Flip, Walker Kessler as a big man.
Cody Williams,
yeah. Exactly. So it's I think he slots really well into that starting lineup. And this is something that you sort of tweeted out today. The Ace Bailey pick makes the Cody Williams situation a lot more interesting.
Lights a fire under him.
Yep.
It should light a fire under him. They just drafted a guy over you.
Yeah.
This is a guy who's going to come in. And the thing I do like about Ace Bailey is he wants your job.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to come in Ace Bailey. What he does have that I don't think maybe anyone on the Jazz's roster other than Keontae and maybe Isaiah Collier a little bit is this dude thinks he's a star.
Yeah.
This dude absolutely is I'm coming in to be a multi-time all-star. I'm coming in to be the face of your franchise.
Yes.
That's the audacity he has on and off the court. And look, that's tricky. You have to develop those guys right. But when you do, you get Darren Williams.
Yes.
When you do, you get Paul George. When you do, you get a star. The guys who come in and want to be stars, if you can help them unlock it, I think there is a lot of imposter syndrome in the NBA. Guys who are well, I can't believe this happened to me. I'm so happy to be here. Ace Bailey is the type of guy who he's known he's going to be an NBA player for 5 years now at this point. Now he's just waiting his turn of where he starts. And the Jazz have to enable that. And that's a big load to take on. That's not a small responsibility, but he brings something in that the Jazz have not had for a long time.
Another thing for Ace Bailey is I just really trust both the coaching staff and the front office, but also just the role that he's stepping into to build him up to be whatever player he can become. I trust him maybe in Utah of any spot, past 4, maybe even if you count 4 and 3, to help him reach his full potential.
Of the names that were on the board?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I don't trust Washington. And I know they're looking better than they were a year ago, but New Orleans is just an absolute nightmare right now, even though they've drafted well. They've just, the culture there is very bizarre. They just added Jordan Poole. That's the guy I don't want playing with Ace Bailey.
Yeah.
Which is something to keep an eye on with the Jazz of who sticks around and who doesn't. That might tell you who they want around Ace Bailey and who they don't. That's why I think they drafted Walter Clayton. I think they wanted a rookie coming in who's a total grown up and it's going to be hey, Ace, we're buddies. Let's hang out. Also, let's do the right thing.
Yeah.
Not that Ace Bailey's a troublemaker at all. I haven't heard that at all, but just hey, I'm going to be in the gym at this time. You going to be there?
Yeah.
I think that type of stuff is all very helpful. So, that is what the Jazz are getting. I don't think you're getting a guy who's going to come in day one and average 20. I don't think you're going to get a guy who come in who's close to a finished product. He is the rawest player of all these guys drafted in the top 5. He's rawer than Trey Johnson.
Yeah, I would say so.
He's probably more raw than Jeremiah Fears. Maybe not. Maybe he's a little more.
Yeah.
But Jeremiah Fears has really good ball and hand game, but he's more raw than Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
He's more raw than Dylan Harper. More raw than Con Knipple. It's going to take time.
Yes.
You got to be willing to give this a little while. And there's going to be really high highs and there's going to be really low lows.
That's part of why I'm saying, though, is I think that, now that I think about it, even way more so than Charlotte and 76ers, I think that just going to beat a dead horse here, the role that he's stepping into, and everything, he's going to have the ability to get shots up. He's going to have the ability to learn. Has sort of been one of the looming messages around the Jazz is if they trade the veterans and don't air quotes tank, but are still just rolling out with a worse roster next year, he's going to have the opportunity to grow.
Yeah. And you know what? You don't know. He's a rookie. You don't owe it to him, quote unquote.
Yes.
But when you take a guy like this with all the build up to Ace Bailey and who Ace Bailey is and what the expectations are going to be for him, he's not a guy who slipped to 15, 16, 17. He's not Cam Whitmore who falls to 20.
Yes.
When you take a guy like this at this spot, in this location where he was hesitant to come to, I think you start to restructure things with the idea that how do you lay out the runway for him to become this star?
Yes.
How do you get him there? how do you justify the 65 loss season to get this guy and follow through? And some of it's on Ace, right? Like some of it's on him buying in, putting in the work, becoming the guy, continuing to listen to the coaches, et cetera, et cetera. But some of it's on the Jazz as well to nurse that out of him.
And I totally see what you're saying, that drafting Walter Clayton is like the first step of building that for
100%.
him. Yeah.
You didn't go out and get another 19-year-old. And that will kind of maybe address the Kasparis Yakashona stuff.
Yes.
And I want to get to that at some point. We'll get to all your mailbag questions. We got a lot of them. But yeah, let's move on to Walter Clayton. I told you I loved him.
Yeah.
I said in the last draft I just would have taken him 12th overall. And that's just what I just threw out a random number. But yeah, Walter Clayton is he's truly one of the, if we're talking about the 5 best shooters in the draft, Con, Trey Johnson, maybe Kobe Bray. There's a couple guys in the second round. Like Walter Clayton's in that group. Walter Clayton can shoot from everywhere, from anywhere. NBA range, can do it off the dribble. He hit a bunch of crazy hero shots at Florida, did it with incredible efficiency, 38% last year, but he's been that way his entire career, even his first 2 years at Iona. He's not like a true point guard, but he is very calming with the ball in his hands.
Yes.
Like he's a guy, when you've had 2 bad offensive possessions in a row, he's like, chill the hell out, like, slow down. I got this. Like, let's run our set. Like, let's get into our thing. And because I'm on the floor, we're going to get a good shot.
Yeah.
Like, he's that type of player, which I think is going to be really beneficial because as much as Isaiah Collier was an improvement at the point guard position for the Jazz last year, like, you just don't trust him to take shots, right? And you can set a screen for him, and I bet you Will Hardy and Danny Ainge and now Austin Ainge, going back and watching the film, just died a little bit inside every time Walker Kessler set a screen for Isaiah Collier and Isaiah's guy touched the paint, backing up to give Isaiah the wide open 3-point shot.
Yes.
And if you do that, Walter Clayton is going to kill you.
Oh, yeah.
He will kill you. You do not have the ability to do that anymore. So if you actually want to develop Walker Kessler even to another level and some of these guys around him, space is key, and Walter Clayton's going to give you a lot of space.
Before I say what I want to say, I want to preface this by saying that I also love Walter Clayton. He is an absolute killer shooter. He, like I said, when he went on to the KSL Sports Zone, he was like, I'm bringing a winning mentality. I think he has that. I think he's uber competitive. The one thing that, when they drafted him, made me think is I think there's a lot of redundancy between him, Keontae, and Jordan Clarkson.
Yes.
Which, and again, we talk about maybe that was calculated with the Ace Bailey selection as well. So it does make me wonder what is next for the Jazz, right? I think this is going to be, even Shams on the Pat McAfee show said this is going to be the most craziest offseason ever.
Yeah.
And I think that is going to extend specifically to the Jazz. I think there is going to be a lot of movement just based on this. I'm not basing that off anything.
You've got an 18-year-old, and again, he's 18.
Yes.
Ace is 18 years old.
Yep.
You got an 18-year-old. You have a 22-year-old. You have Keontae, who's 20 or 21. You have Taylor Hendricks, who's 20 or 21. You've got Bryce, who's 20 or 21. You've got Flip, who's 22 now. You've got Collier, who's 20 or 21. I don't think the Jazz are going to have 9 20-year-olds on the roster next year. I just don't. I think they're going to move some of these guys. They're going to find ways to package them, throw them into trades, try and get future draft picks or whatever it is. But no, I don't. I mean, I just think he took somebody's job.
Yeah.
I think you draft Walter Clayton to take somebody's job.
Yeah, and that's interesting to see who that ends up being.
Yeah, and look, if it's Jordan Clarkson, like Jordan Clarkson's 33.
Yes.
I love Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah.
Like I love Jordan Clarkson the person. I like seeing him every single time I see him. A, because he like dresses cool, but B, because like I sincerely like really enjoy that person being around. He's just like a fun person to have around when you're kind of working and it's 11:30 at night. He's like Jordan's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
but yeah, if he doesn't fit the scheme anymore, like. Yeah, go move on. But then again, maybe he is the mentor. Maybe he is the guy you want to be like, hey, Ace, like, come here. Like, let's settle down.
Yeah.
Like, you can live a good life here and like enjoy yourself. But
Yeah.
neither here nor there. I loved Walter Clayton going into the draft. I said this on our last podcast. Like, wherever he gets drafted, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, I think he's going to be a starting point guard. And I think there's a very real chance the Jazz drafted their starting point guard of the future tonight. Like, very firmly. I think at least one of these two guys is really going to click. I think, and that's what you hope for. And ideally, you get a top 5 star in Ace Bailey and a really great supporting player, and it's a draft that changes the outcome of your team, a la Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. But at the very least, you hope you hit on one of them.
Yeah.
And one of them becomes like one of your top 6 or 7 guys going forward. And the higher in that number, the better. So how do you feel about that?
I think that's good. One more thing before we get into the questions. I think the Jazz were debatably the biggest winners of the draft tonight, the first round.
Jazz are going to get a lot of A+ grades.
Yes. Like you can talk about the Spurs getting Dylan Harper and then Carter Bryant at 14. That's a good draft.
A little sketchy on Carter Bryant. But
yes.
Yeah, I get it. That's a great place.
Yes.
Had he gone 9, I would have been like, oof, that's tough for him.
True.
San Antonio's a really good spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both for fit, and then we just both like this guy. Thomas Sorbo to OKC is like...
Oh, I think did we not put it? Was that not in our mock? Because I think we said you've got 2 more years with Hartenstein, and then he's going to go out, and you want a guy to step in and replace him exactly. Mm-hmm. That's who Thomas Sorbo is.
Yes.
I love Thomas Sorbo, yeah.
Potentially the
worst. We had Carter Bryant going to the Thunder.
Okay. Potentially the worst draft of the night. The Nets taking 3 guards, and then who at the end? Danny Wolf.
One of them's going to hit. Hey, Danny Wolf's also a 7-foot point guard. Yeah, they got the 2 tallest point guards in the draft. Well, Ben Seraph and Yegor Demin are pretty similar.
Yes.
Can't shoot, but big guys with some creativity.
Yes.
Demin at 8 was very surprising.
Yeah.
But good for him, dude. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's great for BYU. That's really cool for Yegor Demin. I'm rooting for him, certainly. Yeah. So otherwise, very interesting. I thought Hawks had an A+ draft.
Oh.
They added a unprotected 2026 draft. Like, did the Pelicans not know who's on the board next year? Pelicans really think they're going to be good, or Milwaukee's going to be good because it's the better of the 2.
Yes.
Are you insane? The better of the 2? And then only to pick up 10 spots. Like, again, the Jazz traded a bunch of second-round picks and the 21st pick to move up 3 spots.
Yeah.
It's not 10 spots, but it's 3 spots still, and you just got second-round picks. I didn't know what the Pelicans were doing there. And Derek Queen's interesting. Like, I actually think they draft Derek Queen to move off of Zion. I think that's the move. But yeah, anyways, neither here nor there.
Also, one last thing, and then we'll get into questions. The Suns traded for Mark Williams, then drafted Kaman Malawash 15 seconds later.
Yeah, 15. I looked at it. I was like, what? The Duke big guy, what am I missing here? Anyways.
Okay.
Fun night. I was surprised there weren't more fireworks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, no big names changed places other than Mark Williams.
Yeah.
That's the biggest name.
And that was like very expected in a way.
Yeah. Also, quickly.
Yeah.
Neither Ace or Walter Clayton worked out in Utah.
Yes, I was going to say. That's like part of the thing. It's like the pre-draft process, like, it's lying season, like all of this stuff, it matters probably less than you think it does.
Yeah.
Like,
trust your scouting.
Yeah.
Also trust it. What they do on the court matters the most.
Yes.
Trust that.
Okay, we're going to get into questions now. First, I'm going to address that a bunch of people have asked. Kasparis was available when the Jazz...
At 18, he was on the board.
When the Jazz traded up. What do you think about taking Walter Clayton over Kasparis?
So... I will just tell you the truth. If I made a big board, I would have had Kasparis Yakashonis over Walter Clayton. Okay. I absolutely would have.
Yes.
While you should just always take best player available, in my opinion, like just take best player available, I understand, like I said, the concept of if I'm bringing in an 18-year-old Ace Bailey and I've got a bunch of other 19-year-olds, I might want a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
And like the odds that Walter Clayton ends up being better than Kasparis Yakashonis is like 40 to 60. You know what I mean? Like Kasparis Yakashonis, I'd give him a slight edge, and he's 19, so he's younger. He's going to probably have a little bit more runway. I think the Heat are a really great landing spot for him. Actually, I can't believe he fell to 20, and I'm very curious why he fell to 20. Clearly something happened. Like,
yes.
This is a guy who should have gone 8 or 9, so I'm very curious why that happened. Unless teams just really don't believe in the shot. And maybe he came into private workouts and couldn't shoot at all. And I guarantee you, Walter Clayton, even though apparently the Jazz didn't get a workout with him, I guarantee you he shot the lights out.
Oh, yeah.
So I probably still would have taken Kasparis Yakashonis. Again, as I've said, it's another guy in diapers, right?
Yes,
it's another guy who needs a ton of runway, and Walter Clayton's going to step in day one, ready to play, and he's only going to get better. I also had someone tell me this one time with summer leagues. It was an old NBA coach. And he said, one of the things you want through summer league, which you didn't just draft Walter Clayton to run your summer league team. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But like sometimes you just want a guy who knows how to do everything to make your other guys do what they do.
Yes.
Like Walter Clayton's going to come in and know exactly what to do, and that makes Ace Bailey's introduction to the NBA that much easier, even if it's just 3 games in Utah and 6 games in Vegas. Like those first 9 games, he's going to play better and have more confidence coming into preseason because Walter Clayton made his life easier in the in summer league. So weird stuff like that I think is beneficial.
All right, question here from Garth. Will Hardy play Ace alongside the veterans next year, or does he bring him along more slowly?
Will Hardy, not Will Hardy. Will Hardy play Ace? Okay.
Or bring him along more slowly. And then what's the thought with bringing in Walter Clayton, knowing that Sexton, Keontae, and Collier are already here? We talked about that redundancy a bit, and then what it means with Ace as well.
Sexton has just been like really heavily involved in trade talks by all the rumors out there as the Jazz are actively trying to move him. And you know, one of the things we didn't talk about is that John Collins picked up his player option, so he's a full-on expiring contract. Like, I expect this to be the first of many moves for the Jazz this summer. I think Austin Ainge came in and wants to switch things up and has the tools to do it. Ace will play alongside the veterans. Yeah, absolutely. He should.
Yes.
That's where he should be playing. Like, I want him to get a taste of like, oh, Lauri Markkanen is kind of similar to me. Like big, really can shoot, but he has to put in X, Y, and Z to get to his spots, to get to his shots. Like the work has to be there. So I want to see him next to it. And by the way, like we've talked about, do you trade Lauri? And maybe you still do. Maybe he never actually suits up next to Lauri at all. But like conceptually, we were just talking about, well, Taylor Hendrickson, Cody, et cetera. Well, Lowry's 7 feet tall.
Yeah.
And is a 40% three-point shooter. So if you're getting him and he's 27 now, he's going to be 28, and you think he's got 5 years left, well, 5 years from now, what's Ace Bailey going to look like if you're just leaving Lauri Markkanen's like full prime in his latter years there? I think there's still value to having those two guys on the floor together.
I trust that the Jazz will bring Ace up as he needs to be brought up, right? I like every player is a little bit different in how they can reach their full potential, but like for the young guys, especially last year, it was a lot of trial by fire. I imagine it'll be similar for Ace.
And the Jazz brought in Patty Mills last year to kind of coach up Isaiah Collier. I'll be curious if the Jazz bring up somebody specifically for as a wing to coach Ace Bailey. Like I'll be curious if they bring a locker room veteran who maybe doesn't have it anymore, but was there at one point and was like, hey Ace, this is what you got to start doing, man. This is what it's going to look like for you. I would be curious if the Jazz do that.
All right, next up from Jimbo Slice. Do Ace and Walter start day one? Do these picks potentially make us better on defense? I would imagine that Ace would and Walter wouldn't. Day one?
I honestly don't know. I mean, Walter Clayton's better today than Ace Bailey.
True.
It's like a lot better.
Yeah.
That's the truth is Walter Clayton is going to be closer to being able to contribute to an NBA team today than Ace Bailey is.
Yeah.
Just because he's played for 4 years and played at a high level. This isn't a 4-year guy who was at VCU.
Yeah.
With all respect to Max Shulga. But like this is a high level college player who's been playing on a championship roster. So I think Walter Clayton's going to play day one. Certainly. I think Ace Bailey's going to. I think both these guys are just in the rotation.
Yeah.
Starting, I don't know. It might depend on how Taylor Hendricks looks in the preseason. They might bring him along really slowly.
Yeah.
And maybe Cody makes a big jump forward. We'll see in Summer League as well.
And then he also asked, do these picks potentially make us better on defense? I think, like I said, like Walter Clayton just has that like winning competitive like drive. So I think that like he'll have that effort on defense, which might just already make him better than like Keontae, Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah, he's a smarter defender.
Yeah. And then for Ace Bailey, there was a lot of like effort questions, but then you can also like maybe attribute some of that to just like how much he had to do on offense for Rutgers. But like the tools are there for Ace Bailey to be a good defender.
Here's what I'll say. No, today the Jazz aren't a better defender.
Yes.
Like Ace Bailey's not going to be good at defense his first year. And Walter Clayton's a little small. He's going to have to learn all the tricks of the trade. Like Walter Clayton's going to have to be the guy who takes charges.
Yes.
Right? Like he's a little bit smaller. He's not going to be lock you down guy. In fact, I think that's what the Jazz will look at in the second round. In fact, I just published an article at KSLSports.com. If you want to know like 5 names for the Jazz to look at in the second round, like who are we even talking about here? I just wrote an article on that, including some really good defensive players, including one of Walter Clayton's teammates at Florida, but maybe even Sion James from Duke, like really like defensive dogs that maybe you get a steal in the second round. So that is there as well. You can go find that at KSLSports.com when this is done. But no, I mean potentially, yeah. Potentially Ace Bailey, if it clicks in and he's got that Jaden McDaniels type of defensive approach, if he can buy into that, that's when he really becomes his best like two-way player.
True.
Is if you get all the offensive stuff and then he recognizes like, yeah, man, I'm a terror when I close out on guys because I block a bunch of jump shots and like I get really low and like you might beat me, but my recovery time is there. And here I had him pulled up. What are his stocks numbers from his lone season? I think it was 3, right? 1.3 blocks and 1 steal. So not quite, 2.3, but over a block and a steal a game. It's like
pretty good.
His raw tools allowed him to do some of that stuff.
From Bilbo Baggins, with the amount of talent left in the early second round, do you see the Jazz approaching the Nets or Hornets with a trade to get in early?
I mean, I told you I love Maxime Reynaud, so if you could go up and get Maxime Reynaud, go do it.
Yeah.
But the Jazz kind of spent all their second round capital today. Like
True.
They spent a lot to move up from 21 to 18, so probably not. But then again, like, what if one of the young guys is available?
Yeah.
What if they're willing to move off a young guy for the 32nd pick? Maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that. I'm just saying, like, that's, they might not be done.
Michael McCurdy Martinez asks, do we get to hear from Austin Ainge tonight?
Austin Ainge did talk tonight. It was only in person at the ZBBC.
Okay.
We will have it tomorrow. Actually, I think we posted it at KSLSports.com. Let me check. I'll look at the podcast really quick, but I'm almost positive we even tweeted it out. Why don't we answer the next question and I'll look and see if we sent it out.
From Tiny Tim, maybe a hot take. I think Ace is the second best player in the draft behind Cooper Flagg. What are your thoughts? I would say not the second best player, but I think he does have the second highest ceiling in the draft.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, there's real all-star upside there. He definitely has that. There's no question about it. He's 6'7.5", and he makes these one of the toughest shot makers I've ever seen. I mean, and that's not hyperbole. Like, the shots he takes are absolutely crazy. I went back. We were talking about watching these guys who are going to go in the top 5. I went back and watched Rutgers versus UCLA. I think it was UCLA, and like last 2 plays of the game, like UCLA is erased a 10-point deficit, and like they're right there. And I think like Ace gets a block, and then he gets this crazy. He gets at the ball in the corner. It's like it's literally a 2-point game, or maybe they've just tied it up. UCLA has, and Ace has the ball in the corner. There's like a guy right up on him, like coffin corner, dead spot.
Yeah.
And he's just like, rise up! And just like drills this 3. And this guy, it's like, okay, like that was crazy, but I can't believe that shot went in. It's like, that's what he does. Like, that's the game-winning potential. That's the superstar potential. That's the can't ever teach that. You got to have the physical tools. You have to have the touch. You have to have the upside to be willing to do it. And he absolutely nailed it.
From Dell, Summer League rotation predictions at start and end of Summer League.
Oh, I have no idea who's going to win the team, but like Walter, Ace, Cody, Flip. Who else am I missing from last year?
I imagine, do you think Taylor Hendricks wouldn't because of the injury, right?
No, Taylor can't play.
Yeah.
He'll be ready by preseason.
Keontae?
I don't think any of the third-year guys play.
Okay.
Maybe Bryce, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
Bryce was really good to close the year last year.
True.
So, yeah, I think it's the 3 guys from last year. Cody, Isaiah, Flip, Walter, Ace, and then whoever they get in the second round.
Yeah.
And apparently Prochita's in town.
Oh,
the guy who the Jazz traded for. Apparently Gabriel Prochita's in town. At least I saw in credit Jazz Nation News, I think it was, had stalked his girlfriend, and his girlfriend had posted photos at the ZBBC. And that's a level of dedication that I applaud Jazz fans for being that crazy. Apparently he was at the ZBBC, so I would imagine he's here for that reason. And when I had asked a person within the Jazz a while ago if they thought he would come over, and they said not this year. This was a year ago.
Okay.
Said not this year, but maybe next year Summer League. So this has kind of been in the books, in play for a while.
Yes.
So I wouldn't be surprised.
Wade Owens Riley says, anyone else think it's funny that Ace and his agent was like, we don't want to go to Utah, and then Austin Ainge was like, hold my beer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but look, if you want to change the outlook on Utah, like Utah obviously has a stigma.
Yes.
Now look, so does Indiana, so does Milwaukee, so does Oklahoma City,
even like Boston,
so does Denver. Right, and it's not even like the racial stigma, but like people don't want to play in those cities, guys. Like the funny thing, this report of like, Utah was not one of Ace's preferred destinations. It's like, well, go find the rookie who wanted to go to Utah. Yeah. With all due respect, like, what state did you grow up into where you're like, you know what, best case scenario for me, I'm moving to Utah. Like, not as a non-basketball player. Yeah. Like, I don't want to move to Wisconsin.
No,
I don't want to go to Milwaukee. With all due respect, like, cool.
Yeah,
but it's like, okay, knowing our demographic, it's like, how many guys locally or girls open their mission calls and we're like, man, I really hope it's Oklahoma City. It's like, yeah, you didn't want to go there either as an 18-year-old.
No.
You know what I mean? For 2 years.
Yeah.
So like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just don't care. And because the truth is, that's been every player. Mm-hmm. Every player has looked and been like, man, I'm slotted at 20, the Jazz are at 21, and the Knicks are at 22. Like, maybe the Knicks will grab me.
Yeah.
Like, that's everybody.
Yes.
Like, Donovan Mitchell randomly worked out for the Jazz and was like, I think that'd be great. Okay. You got one in Donovan Mitchell. And guess what? Donovan left. So it's like, I don't care. And I bet you, and the Jazz shouldn't care. And I'm glad that they didn't tonight.
Yes.
Mostly not because I care that they got Ace. I hope that stigma goes away.
Yeah.
I hope they just say, look, if we like you, we're going to draft you. And you know what? I bet you there was 10 teams around the NBA who sent Austin Ainge a text that said, good for you.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, dude, good. Yeah, we're not going to let agents boss us around. This is the NBA. Mm-hmm. We're going to pay you $100 million. Like,
yes.
If we want you, we get to take you.
Yeah.
So I applaud them.
Yeah, poor Ace. He made $5 million more by going to Utah.
Right. Yeah, exactly right.
Next up from Shane. How much of a building block is Ace? Pretty big age difference between him and Lowry. Will they move Lowry?
They still could. You know, I think. So I heard today, and I don't know if he said it or not publicly. So I just don't want to name him. I'm not trying to steal the source, but yes. I just heard this totally secondhand from somebody else. I think he did say it because I think I heard him say it. So I'll just say Tim Lacombe, reported today on air. He did our pre-draft stuff too. The Jazz turned down several major offers for Lowry today.
Really?
Today.
Wow.
So I hope he said that on. If not, I really apologize. But I'm almost positive he said that on the air because I think I heard him say it in my car and then in person as well.
Okay.
So I mean, they've turned down offers already. But that doesn't mean that people are calling.
Yeah.
So credit Tim McComb on that.
Yes.
I hope I didn't mess that up. Really, I'm sorry if I did, Tim.
Shout out to Sam. He was one of the people that asked about the.
But building blocks, yes. Sorry about Ace Bailey.
Yes, absolutely.
Ace Bailey is the best prospect the Jazz have drafted since probably Darren Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, and that was 2005. So it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Better than Dante Exum, like better prospect than Dante by far.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Shout out to Sam. He was one of the people who asked about the Walter Clayton conspiracy.
Okay.
Riley O'Brien. How does Ace Bailey compare to Brandon Miller as prospects? And do you feel Clayton over Casparis was the right move? So they asked that as well.
Yeah.
But what do you think about does Ace Bailey compare to Brandon Miller as a prospect?
Brandon Miller was better. He's a better shooter, less audacious shooter. The red flags were weird with Brandon Miller. Taking the gun to a murder scene is not good.
Yeah.
It's really bad. And Ace Bailey doesn't have that at all. Like, Ace Bailey's like, I want to play in Washington. Like, that's not a red flag. Like,
No.
good for it might be because Washington's a nightmare. But
Yeah.
but I do think Brandon Miller's probably a slightly better player, a little more refined, but was also at 2 assists a game. I mean, Brandon Miller was 18.8 points, 8.2 rebounds, so maybe like a half of a tenth or a 5/10 better than Ace on both of those spots. But the assists were almost identical, 43% from the floor. He was a better three-point shooter, 38% from three, much better free throw shooter, 85% there. But they're comparable. It's a very similar player. Yeah, that's. I think you're hoping for him to come to Utah and play better than Brandon Miller has been so far with Charlotte. He's been a little disappointing in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's still good. He's just a little disappointing. I think people were hoping he was going to be like that superstar rangy wing. And again, he's played like 90 games.
Yes.
So.
Another one from Widow and Dryly, and I already know the answer. Okay. This one from you.
Do you want to answer it for me?
Yes. Is Walter Clayton talented enough to take this starting point guard position? Yes.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
In fact, the only reason I would say he's not the favorite to do it is because Colin Sexton's still on the team and Isaiah Collier was here last year.
Yeah.
But dude, Walter Clayton's going to come in and just make life easier because he makes shots. It's what Isaiah's ability, and look, Isaiah's played 80 games in the NBA now. That really matters.
Yes.
And Isaiah's ability to get into the paint off the dribble with no screen is really valuable because you just wreak havoc on a defense when you can penetrate. It's why there was legit interest in Jeremiah Fears. He's going to get 2 feet in the paint every single time he touches the ball. And, your defense is stretched now. It changes things. He just didn't do anything with it when he got there. Was my qualm with Jeremiah Fears. But now, if you just want to play ball screen stuff with Walker Kessler and Walter Clayton, it's you're going to have shooters. You're going to have shooters all over the floor. You're going to have guys who can step out, at least 4 shooters on the floor at all times, which the Jazz didn't have when they had Isaiah Collier and Walker Kessler on the floor.
I don't know about Ace's potential at the 4. I know before we talked about he'd probably be better at the 2 than the 4.
Yeah.
But a lineup that's Isaiah Collier, Bryce Sensabaugh, Ace Bailey, maybe Flip and Walker, something like that. Like you said, if you have the ball screen between Isaiah and Walker, and then you have Ace, Bryce, and Flip. Yeah. That's pretty lethal.
No, I think Will Hardy's going to love Flip at the 5, Lowry at the 4, Ace at the 3, Bryce at the 2, and Walter Clayton at the 1.
Yeah.
It's just you've got 35% and over 3-point shooters on the floor. It's
yes.
It's really hard to guard, and while the Jazz may not be guarding anyone in that rotation, okay, well, you know what? Flip, here's what you do. You take Flip off, you put Taylor Hendricks on, and Taylor plays your 5, and he's your rim protector. It's all of a sudden it starts to come together of the potential is there, right? You've got 5 guys on the perimeter. You've got shooting all over the floor. You've got some smart guys on the floor. It's where it gets really interesting. And then look, if Cody starts to make shots and can play some defense, it all really starts to fit pretty quickly.
Another one from Widow and Dryly. What's a player comp for Walter Clayton Jr.? When we had talked about him, I wrote a more team-oriented Keontae George, and then best case would be Jamal Murray, maybe.
Best case is Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Fred VanVleet, who's probably a little bit more of a floor general type.
Yes.
But top outcome is Jalen Brunson, Jamal Murray, but chill. Just just be a very solid point guard. You know what I mean? And Kyle Lowry. You know what I mean? Those types of things, just kind of those tough winning types of guards. But that's kind of what you're thinking. Jameer Nelson. Things like that.
Benjamin Smith. How worried should the front office be about maximizing value of players that seem like they need to be traded? Is clearing space more important than maximizing value?
Probably a little bit of both. It's a good question. because I don't have a great answer for it. It's like,
Yeah.
you can hurt yourself by being like, we're going to maximize the value at the absolute most and like wait till they're at their highest peak. It's like trying to do that with the stock market. It's like, did you meet your asking price? Good. Like if you just hold on to it too long, something happens and it goes wrong and they lose value. So, but it brings the question to the point of like Colin Sexton might be at his highest value now because he's only going to get expiring more and more and more. And you're probably not going to re-sign him next year, so teams are going to offer less.
Yeah.
John Collins, same thing, right? And it's harder to trade those guys in season than it is out of season because their contracts are big enough. The question is like Keontae George. Like if we're talking about Walter Clayton coming in to take somebody's job, and it's another young player, like Keontae George probably makes the most sense among the names because he's already been not demoted but moved to a bench role. I think Isaiah Collier was probably a better player than Keontae George was last year.
Yeah.
Walter Clayton can do some of the same things, like backup point guard, but the shots actually go in, with all due respect to Keontae. And Keontae, to his credit, I thought got better in his second year, even if his shooting percentages didn't improve. But statistically, like, if you're a team out there and a guy, Keontae averaged 16.8 points last year. Like, he's probably number 2 or number 3 from his draft class in points per game. He's at 5.6 assists. Like, if his shooting percentages go up 3 or 4%. Now, look, this is the exact thing I said last year.
Yes.
If they go up 3 or 4%, you kind of have an interesting player there. And maybe the Jazz just bet on that. It's like, hey, let's give him his third year and see. And then we don't actually care if we maximize his value because maybe his max trade value is today and he gets worse and we lose that value. But maybe you're okay with that now because you have Walter Clayton on the board and you just say, like, let's just see. And if it doesn't work out, we'll trade him midseason. We'll take a little bit less than we were hoping. We'll get a couple of second-round picks instead of maybe a first or whatever you could get for him now, and you just bite that bullet.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, trying to just maximize absolute value could hurt you because if he ends up being good this season, you say, well, dang, that would have been nice to have too also. So that's just the hard value.
A good example is the Jazz traded Ochai Agbaji, and then he ended up being pretty good.
He got better.
Yeah.
Yeah, you traded him at a low point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jazz Time Jones, what's the plan with the logjam at point guard and shooting guard? I won't lie, I think like I had specifically talked about the redundancy, Walter Clayton Jr., Keontae, and Jordan Clarkson. I think that Jordan Clarkson as a mentor, like, I don't know exactly like how outspoken he is, like especially when it comes to like training together, for example, but like I could just see based on play style how he could really leave an impact on both Clayton and Bailey.
I just kind of think the obvious name is Colin. To be honest with you, I just think Colin's kind of the obvious odd man out. And for the reason, you know why? He has the most value. He is the best of all those players. Like, Colin's a really good player. I really like Colin, and he's still young enough. And like, I think there's a chance Colin goes and like really helps a team.
Yes.
Really helps a team, but maybe the Jazz just need to clear out some space. Or maybe they keep him because they're closer and they feel like, hey, we didn't think we were going to get Ace Bailey, and that gets us close to where we thought we were going to be or wanted to be to winning. So it's hard. Everything's up in the air right now for the Jazz, and understandably so. Tonight, I think, was a surprise.
Yeah.
Like, I think the Jazz
absolutely
legitimately will say that, like, after falling to 5, they're surprised that they ended up with the night that they did.
Yes. All right. Real quick, shout out to Connor Morris. He made a Twitter account just to ask us questions for the Jazz Notes podcast.
Heck yeah.
He says that and then says, Suns had lots of movement recently. Do you think the 2031 first-round pick has gone up or down in value? Maybe too early to tell. Also, what could we get back from a Sexton trade? I'm thinking player and a first-round pick.
Value's gone up.
Yes.
I think the value's gone up. I think point guards are tricky. Point guards are kind of tricky to find. And Colin's not like the best pure point guard, but like, told you, like, if I was Dallas, I'd just kill to get Keontae George right now.
Yes.
Right? Like, you need somebody to replace Kyrie for most of the year, if not all of the year. And then if it works, you just like him and like to have him around. Like, there's a real chance that Colin Sexton's like going to win the Sixth Man of the Year award in the next 3 years. Like, I wouldn't put that past him at all. And so, like, you know, we kind of talked about, Orlando doesn't really fit anymore because they already drafted Desmond Bane. It's like, then also go get Colin Sexton. Now, the fact that we're past the first round, I think, makes a lot of these trades harder. Like, the picks have been spent. Like, you can't trade for these picks. I mean, you can, but teams rarely draft a guy like him and then give up on him a couple of weeks later. Now, that did happen in the Donovan Mitchell trade. Like, the Jazz got Ochai, Jazz got Walker Kessler. It's not out of the realm of possibilities, but anyways, it can happen. But I don't know if you're getting a first now.
Yeah, true.
But it may be next year.
Sam Briner asks, with Clayton being traded to the Jazz, will he be eligible for Summer League?
Yeah, because it was just picks that were traded.
Okay.
If it was a player involved, sometimes that has to wait until the 6th.
Okay.
Which, by the way, it starts on the 5th, 7th, and 8th. So, like, even then, if there was a reason why he wasn't available, he would be available by the 7th and 8th.
Okay.
So it would be the last 2 nights he's here. But I think because it's just like the Jazz have already tweeted it out that they traded for him.
Yeah.
The Jazz have already tweeted that they acquired him.
From Cam Young, how much weight do we think Ace really gained this offseason? Definitely not the 20 that he stated.
No, I'll be curious to see what he weighs. But
Yeah.
no, 20 pounds is hard to add.
Yeah, true.
He weighed in at 202 at the combine.
Yes.
So no, he hasn't added 20 pounds since then.
Yeah. Next from Positive Jazz Guy. Does Ace have any ties with any current Jazz teammates? If I remember correctly, Keontae played on an AAU team with THT.
Not that I know of, but I mean, I would suspect he knows like Isaiah Collier and Cody Williams. Right? Like those guys were one and done guys, the AAU circuits, everyone just like knows each other. So I would suspect there's some knowledge there. And he is a Georgia guy, right? He was born in Tennessee, went to Georgia though, and like that's where Colin Sexton goes, I think, sometimes in the offseason. That's where John Collins might go sometimes in the offseason. So some Georgia kids there too. So I certainly wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
And also am I wrong? Was Isaiah Collier the Georgia Player of the Year?
Yes, I think he was. Yeah. His hometown is in Georgia.
So I bet you he and Isaiah know each other.
Yes.
I would very strongly guess that would be the case because Isaiah would have been, I mean, they're 1 year apart. So Isaiah would have been a senior when he was a high school player, junior in high school.
He adds another question. One more quick one. Hypothetical. If the Jazz had the 3rd pick, do they still take Ace? That's a good question.
Yeah, impossible to know. So what I was gonna put, I should have just done it. I was gonna put out a little big board just to have some skin in the game. I hate to do it after the fact now.
Yes.
My question was like, I just don't have any idea where Ace Bailey would have fit on this because Ace Bailey seems like he's been out of the conversation for a very long time. Like it got figured out at least like a week ago, maybe longer, that like that's where Philly was gonna go if nothing dramatic changed. They were gonna take VJ. So like, how did the Jazz use him? I don't really have any idea. But I do think that the Jazz probably had Ace above Con.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I do think the Jazz probably had Ace above Con.
Yeah.
But again, that's a guess.
But no, like literally from like, I want to say like 5 months ago to like 2 weeks ago, he was like the consensus number 3 guy in the draft.
Yeah. What's funny again is like throughout the entire draft process, up until 12 days ago, or like, a month ago.
Yes.
Ace Bailey was the number 3 guy, no question, and was the number 2 guy before he got to Rutgers. And Dylan Harper leaped him, and good for Dylan Harper. Like that was a good jump for Dylan Harper, who played well. But like Ace has been the other guy in this draft next to Cooper Flagg forever.
Yes.
And the second that the season ended at Rutgers, it was still Cooper, Dylan, Ace.
Yes.
The fact that he was at 5 was all kind of post season pre-draft weird stuff of just like his agent being weird and teams freaking themselves out. And teams absolutely freak themselves out. Teams over-question. They look too closely at things. They worry about the wrong things. And that's how guys end up falling.
Yeah.
By the way, Isaiah Collier and Ace Bailey played each other in high school.
Really?
There's a big video of it on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So, because they were the top 2 recruits. Like, I remember Isaiah Collier was the number 1 recruit in the country.
Yes.
And I bet you Ace was number 2. Yeah. So, these guys playing against each other. It says the whole city showed out. I don't know if it's that many people, but yeah, it's a big deal. I'm sure it's a huge deal.
Yeah. All right, last question.
Okay.
From Donovan Mitchell Stan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Love Donovan. I'm just saying, like, it's been a hard couple of years.
With Ace Bailey on one wing and a year from now, AJ DeBonsa on the other, would that be good?
Ace Bailey, yeah. Absolutely.
That would be pretty
put
good.
Anyone in AJ DeBonsa, I don't care. Yeah. Put me in AJ DeBonsa. That's a good lineup. That's a good duo. I'll get it out of the way. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, that is the other thing. And I thought Hans Olsen brought this up on our broadcast, and I thought it was astute. Was the Jazz getting Ace opens the door to get another top 5 pick next year.
Yes,
because you should be playing Ace Bailey 25 minutes a night.
Oh, yeah.
And he's probably not going to help you win, but you are trying to get him up to snuff.
Yes.
You're trying to get him up to being one of these elite players. And I don't know if that's the guy who gets there by playing, 15 minutes a night.
Yeah. Can I tell you, that's it for questions, but I just want to add this about Ace. And this, shout out to JD Thatch, because this made me think about it. The thing I really like about Ace, and specifically his scoring potential, is that both what Keontae and Jordan have had to do in recent years, which is to take the off dribble and tough shots, he can assume some of those duties. But not only that, I like his ability to be both a ball in hand, couple dribbles, sidestep kind of scorer, and then also just a catch and shoot or catch and one dribble scorer, which is he can really do it no matter what situation he's in, which makes it easier to find other players that fit around him, I feel like. Of course, if we're projecting what he could be.
He needs to really process quicker.
Yes.
Like his biggest flaw, one of his big flaws right now is like he catches the ball and he stops and he like looks around. He's got to start learning like am I shooting right away? Am I dribbling right away? Or am I passing right away? Because actually I think some of the flaw in his handle that people have with Ace Bailey is because he stops and he lets the defense get set.
Yes.
Where if I catch the ball and I'm moving by the time I catch it and I'm driving past you, okay, at 6'7.5" and 6'9" in shoes, I actually don't need to be a great ball handler. It would be awesome if I was, but like you would be surprised at how few 6'9" guys actually have great handles. Like, does Giannis have a great handle? He does not. No. Like, you've heard NBA players be like, oh, LeBron has no bag. Like, okay, well, that's a lie. LeBron does. He's the greatest player of all time. But, like, LeBron, and he's a good ball handler, but, like, most of LeBron's game is actually not sitting over there, like, three, like, hezzies into a crossover. Like, it's, let me catch the ball and drive past you because I'm so much stronger. And Ace Bailey probably can't do that today. But when Ace Bailey's body looks like Taylor Hendricks is a year and a half from now or 2 years from now. Yeah. And he looks like mini KG. It's like, like he's going to dribble past you because he's stronger than you are. He's going to get you on his hip. Like Con Knipple has no dribbling bag, but he's really dang strong. So like he gets you on his shoulder and he pushes you out of the way and then the dribble's good enough. Yeah. That's probably where Ace Bailey has to get to. I don't know if he's ever going to be Jason Williams ball handling. Yeah. But he does need to be like, catch the ball and go. That your advantage is going to be the defense doesn't know what you're going to do and you're a legit shooting threat right now. So if they're so worried about you shooting that they close out, just beat the closeout. Like, but you got to make that decision quickly. Like that's Ace's problem. And when you do that, okay, that's when you turn the ball over as a passer, right? The defense is set. Yeah. So he's just got to learn to generate. He's got to know what advantages he has because he generates them based on his size and his skills. He's just got to learn how quickly he's got to make that decision. Yes. And that's going to be the big step for him. Yeah. And that's when they say the game is fast, when young players say the NBA is so fast, that's what they're talking about. Yeah. You can punt 18-year-olds that are bigger than everyone else. They can go as slow as they want. You can't go slow in the NBA. So that's going to be the hard adjustment for him. And it will be. That's where he's going to have nights where he's just awful. And there's going to be nights where, like, I suspect he scores 25 or 30 in an NBA game as a rookie. Like, I really think there's a chance he gets to 30 in a game.
Considering all the context, because, like, of course you could say because the Spurs had the second and the 14th pick, they're the biggest winners. But considering the context, placement of the picks and everything, I think the Jazz were one of, if not the biggest winner tonight.
And just on draft night. Yes. Like, we can't tell what this is going to be like 3 years from now or 4 years from now. You just don't know. There's so many things. But when you look at who these guys were going into the draft, where the Jazz were, and the value I think they got, and I would suspect executed a plan they hope to execute, I think they've got to be happy.
Yes, absolutely.
So anyways, well, about an hour there. Yeah. So a little longer than I expected. If you're just tuned in late and you want to listen to it, we're going to post this at KSL Sports. It's under the Jazz Notes podcast app. So if you podcast, just look up Jazz Notes. Listen to us every week. We'll be back with you again coming up on, well, we're going to be back tomorrow. Yes. If you want to listen to the second round, Chandler and I will be live on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, starting at 6 o'clock and going through the entire draft. Jazz still have the 53rd pick. They traded the 43rd pick tonight. But we will still be on tomorrow for that, and then we'll be back Monday with your normal Jazz Notes. Yeah, and I imagine we'd talk about what happens in the second round and probably some more first round talk as well. And we'll be less than a week away from the first Ace Bailey game in Utah. Yeah, which is crazy. They actually pulled the trigger. Yes. Good for the Jazz for being bold and doing it. I think that deserves some applause. Big thanks to everyone who tuned in. Cool numbers to see all the people who are listening live. And everyone who sent in questions. I'll be back on the air tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock with Jake Scott and Jake and Ben. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 o'clock and another Jazz Notes podcast coming up on Monday.